So, most welcome to this digital event called Connected Manufacturing. Very happy to have you here. I hope it will be 2 hours of really good inspiration and some insights that you can take home with you. My name is Daniel Marcus, work as an key account manager at NTI in Sweden. Been working with Autodesk solutions for many years, both on the technical side and on the sales side. So again, most welcome. Just some short information in the beginning. We will record this event so you can share this with your colleagues. And we will have a Q&A in the end, so please type in your questions. We try to answer them as we go. Otherwise, we'll get back to you later on. And also, please respond to our survey later on after the event. It will help us improve, so that we're very thankful for if you can do that. Little bit short about the agenda for today. We have 3 main sessions. First off is Asif Mogal, Director, Marketing Industry Development at Autodesk. Of course, he will talk a lot about technology, but I guess he will talk more about people actually. So very interesting to see how that combines. After that, we have a short break, and Stefan and me will continue talk about different level of digitalization. How can you actually utilize the technology? We'll go a little bit more into solutions. We'll do some different solutions, take you to different level of digitalizations, different level of connected manufacturing, if you so want to say. And last but not least, we will have Per Nilsson from Scan Elevator actually talking about how this is in real life, how they have done a digitalization journey, creating an aftermarket portal that's connected so they can have a better outcome both for themselves but also for their customer, for their end customers. So very interesting. And we will round up with some Q&A and some takeaways after that. So just a couple of slides about NTI. Perhaps you know about us. We are a solution provider, Autodesk partner, have been so for many, many years. And we're actually growing quite fast. So we're number 1 in Europe right now, and we are still growing. So perhaps we will be on the top 3 globally. So that's very exciting. It means for you that we have a lot of skilled people to help you, a lot of experienced skilled people to help you out in your projects to do a better outcome. And we try, of course, to be on the level your need is on. So perhaps this is like getting used to the software, training, that kind of stuff, installation, or you would need to optimize what you already bought to get the maximum out of the solution. Could be automated workflows, as an example. But in the end, we all want to help you do and transfer business and get a better outcome. Can be that you actually move from more like a selling products, more like selling products as a service, or even go selling solution as a service, and how we can help in that with digital tools. So that's what's really inspiring and what I like to do, to be out there at customer and see how we can help you transform your business. Do more with less. I think we're all aware of that the pressure from today is higher than ever before. We have very high expectations from our customers and the customers, as also, of course. You should be accessible, available. It should be personalized. You would have a service at your fingertips. It should be sustainable all at once. So it's not that easy, of course. And then we have the changing conditions with the political situation, tariffs, disruptive technology. I mean, AI is a super opportunity, but also a little challenging, because this means that we see new companies, competitors thinking another way. So we need to be adaptive and understand this. But when I'm out at customers, talk with them. We have the data, and the data is, of course, the new black or the gold. But the data today is very fragmented, is what I hear when I talk with customers. It's in silos. It's even not. It's also different information in different systems, etc. So this is preventing us actually from speed up to scale up. So this is something that I think a lot of you have a lot of valuable data, but we need to get this in order to actually then be able to scale up, speed up, and use those new technologies. So what we see today, this is an analysis that could be up to 2 months actually per year that an ordinary engineer spends on searching for data, verifying data, and recreating the same data and type in information in up to 10 different systems. That's not unusual. This means that there's a lot of waste in time and energy, which could lead to that we miss our targets on the cost and the targets on the launch date, etc. Sometimes we do it, but it's a very high pressure, and we spend a lot of time, resource, energy to try to solve this. So just for a little bit of interactivity, we will do some polls, a couple, just short, just to see a little bit on how you think about your situation. So please, Anne-Mette, could you launch the first one? It's how do you rate your current level of digitalization within your company? From a very low, I won't say paper and pen, but up to very high, where you are connected. You have very connected workflows between your different systems, etc. So just a quick one on this one, where you rate your current level of digitalization. Thank you. I think that would be enough, Anne-Mette. Let's see if we have some results on that one. As expected, I will see someone is in the top and someone is low. So this is a typical statistic curve that you can see, and normal deviation, which means there's a lot to do, and that's good. That's good. If you continue with one more poll, it's actually then what priority do digitalization projects have in your company, and not that only on engineering, but the whole as a whole. What would you say? Is it on a strategic level very important, or is it just occasionally? It happens. Sometimes we do some digitalization, it just happens. So from a not a priority to a very top priority where it's a strategic pillar. So please fill in. So let's see. Interesting. So it's a little bit higher here. So you have a little bit higher priority on actually do stuff, do things. It's on the level, but it needs to happen. It needs to happen. But thank you very much for that. I guess you've seen this picture, but I think it's a good one. I mean, we have all a very busy days normally, too busy for improvement sometimes. We're stuck in some kind of catch-22. We do understand that we need to do something, but there is no time for it. I think you can all recognize this one. So the big question is then, how do we do this? How do we get things done? How do we start with digitalization projects? How do we go from just some initiatives to actually have this as a backbone in our organization? So hopefully we will answer some of those questions, or part of these questions during these 2 hours. We will start off with Asif from Autodesk. So please welcome Asif.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, Daniel, and thank you to the team at NTI for inviting us to be part of this summit today. My name is Asif. I lead what we call the market and industry development function at Autodesk. Now, that involves a lot of boring stuff, but it also involves a really exciting aspect, which is I get to come out and work directly with companies like you to understand the challenges around transformation projects, but also we roll our sleeves up and we kind of support these companies developing their roadmaps and implementing and executing them and developing transformation strategies that your people can get behind. And I think that's going to be a theme that I talk about a lot in my presentation. And we like to think, or I like to think about digital, not necessarily in terms of just projects, but I kind of almost consider them as superpowers. We have at our fingertips right now some access to some amazing technology that if we implemented could turn into kind of superpowers for our business. And that's really what I want to talk about today is how do we unleash these kind of digital superpowers? Um, Now, as part of my presentation, I'm going to make some reference to some very forward-looking statements, particularly when it comes to data and AI. And one of the things that we're always, it's always good practice to do is to kind of just point out that like any technology company, like any vendor who's developing software products, some of the roadmap, some of the ideas and the timelines around some of these forward-looking things may change. And this safe harbor statement is just to make that explicitly obvious. Where something is yet to be developed, I will call it out. Where something is available, I will call it out. But it's just a standard safe harbor statement that we always think it's sensible to kind of kick off with. So I'm going to start with a little bit of a quiz. It won't be as interactive as we normally would, but if I put this picture up in front of you and all your people in your organization, would you recognize what it is? Now, some of you might do. I certainly do. I'm that old, but this is a ViewMaster. And I think it's one of the world's first attempts at a 3D immersive experience for humans. And if you don't know what the tool is, a plastic molded component with two eyepieces, you would hold the device up to your face and you'd click through 3D images of an underwater ocean scene, a mountain, a countryside, doesn't matter what. Okay. And if we went back in time and if we went for a tour around this business, what would we see? If we start in the drawing office, we'd see a very quiet drawing office. Not much really happening. We'd see some, static drawing boards, some drawing cabinets with paper drawings in them. There wouldn't be a huge amount of change being implemented because the product doesn't really change itself very much. If we walked out of the drawing office and we went into the production environment, it'd be noisy. We'd see lots of machines melting down plastic, forming plastic, molding these things, taking the things out of the molds, removing all the flashing, assembling them, boxing them, shipping them off to be sold. That would be pretty much where the relationship with as me as a manufacturer would end with the end user because I'd have no direct relationship with the customer as soon as those products leave the factory. Now, if we come back to today, and I showed you a picture of this, I think more people would recognize what this is. So it's more of a 3D immersive set of goggles. Gamers, loads of people use these things a lot. And if we went and did a tour of the factory that produced these, again, starting in the design office, wow, what a difference you'd see. You'd see not just mechanical engineers, you'd see electronics engineers, software engineers, plastic injection molding engineers, disciplines from different parts of the world coming together to work to develop and bring this product to market. You'd actually see a lot of change happening very quickly. You probably wouldn't see much paper, all be sort of CAD and things like that. And if we went out to the production environment and did a tour of the production environment, it would almost be like we were going around a laboratory, a very clean environment. Okay, lots of assembly, testing, packaging up before the product is shipped. Okay, and at that point, that's probably where the relationship with us as the manufacturer and the customer begins, because once this product is in the hands of the customer, that's almost where we can continue our relationship with them. So these are very, very different business models, right? And the point I'm trying to make is the time it took to go from the ViewMaster to this was, let's say, 20, 25 years. Okay. But the time it takes to go from this to the next version won't be that long, because the rate of change is accelerating beyond almost our capacity to keep up. And that rate of change, that rate of disruption is having an effect on the market. And we do this thing called the State of Design and Make report every year. And what it shows us undisputedly is that because of all the global disruptions that are happening, cost control and cost management are number one on everyone's agenda, followed closely by technological advancements, including AI. Now, that's probably not news to any of you, but what's really interesting from us is the effect that this is happening. So the first effect is happening is that people are no longer interested in the best individual product, right? The best individual CAD product or the best individual CAM product, whatever it is, you name it. What they prefer to look at is the best connected platform. And that's a platform or some way of connecting the products they design and make, as well as the places that they make them in. So the kind of buildings and facilities, as well as the products that are designed and made. These things are coming together at a really alarming rate. And so what customers are telling us is they don't want the best individual building design tool, the best individual CAD tool. They want the best connected system that brings together what they design and the buildings they design them in. Connectivity seems to be king. That's the first difference that we're seeing. It's really changing a lot of the buying criteria that people have around technology these days. The second thing is people are no longer satisfied with these very long, drawn out transformation projects. Things that promise, 3 to 6 to 9 months implementation with some vague ROI in the future. No one has time for that. What customers are telling us is they want fast, quick, agile implementations of transformations. Implement, get the benefit, move on to the next one. So some really, really interesting changes that we've seen in people's attitudes towards transformation. And of course, how do you manage all of the data and the processes as you bring all these kind of worlds together? So that's what people want. But where people are today is largely what we see on the screen. We call this the chaos slide. And every time we go and visit a company, we kind of show people this image and they kind of laugh and they say, you've been here before. That looks exactly like my business. And what it shows is the realities of what it means to manage a design and manufacturing company today. You've got silos of teams working in isolation, creating the fragmentation that Daniel talked about. You've got processes, some of which are digital, some of which are manual, but they don't really quite flow together. You've got mixes of analog and digital data. It's pure chaos. And so when we go and see companies, we never hear people saying, hey, I don't need to digitize. What customers tell us is like, I know I need to do something. It is a priority. But the question that I want addressed is, where should I start? I could start anywhere in the business, so where should I start? And here's what we kind of respond by saying. So, well, bizarrely, you might think this is strange from a tech vendor, but you shouldn't start with technology. What we see a greater success rate is when you start with your people. Who are your digital superheroes inside the business? Bring those people together. Now, who are those people? Well, this is a bell curve. If you've seen a couple of polls with a very nice distribution on them, this is another one. In every organization, there is a population distribution of people from innovators on the left to laggards on the right. And what we see is organizations that can identify their innovators and early adopters and empower those people to drive the transformation project have a higher chance of success than if you just get your best engineer or your best technologist on the project. Because those people can help bring a project together quickly, realize it, and help cross the sort of chasm of death to get the early majority and the late majority in the organization bought in. And that's how you reach scale. So that's one of the very interesting things that we've seen around success around transformation. It's not about the technology, it's about your people. And if you get these innovators and early adopters together, what is it you specifically do with them? And then we see success comes from empowering these people to facilitate this discussion with the whole organization. Where are we today from a technological point of view? Where do we want to be? Okay, and then really importantly, what's stopping us getting there? And it's the answer to that last question that forms the basis of a transformation roadmap. But because you've involved your people in this journey, it's more likely that the transformation roadmap is supported by your people and bought into. And once you've done that, then it's time to think about not technology, but digital superpowers. And there are 5 of them. I'm not going to go into them in a huge amount of detail today. They're not in any particular order. There's mass customization, the ability to personalize a product or a service for an individual customer or a segment of your market without the engineering overhead. There's digital collaboration, which is the ability to communicate with anyone in your value chain with increased speed, effectiveness, and quality. There's flexible manufacturing, the ability to make manufacturing decisions very, very early in the process before you've even committed to any material cost, production layout. No matter what walks in the front door, you can make your manufacturing decisions on how you plan, design, build, and operate your production facility. There's customer experience, which is about changing the relationship you have with your customers from a transactional buy-sell relationship to being much more of a strategic vendor. And last but not least, there's smart services, which is about putting data at the center of your business and using it to generate insight-based value adds. In some of those cases, you could monetize them. So these aren't really software capabilities. They're not products. They're not features or not functions. They're capabilities that we have seen when you activate them inside an organization can lead to some very, very, very dramatic returns. And these are the superpowers that we spend all of our time working with customers to figure out which is the right 1, 2, or 3 superpowers that you need to activate to get to your kind of goals. Now, we've been delivering these superpowers for decades. First of all, through point products, then collections, then through a subscription model. We started cloud enabling our products. Our transformation hasn't finished because our next evolution is to scale these superpowers to all of our customers and their customers through our platform. Our platform in the design and make world is called Fusion. So why platform? So I'm guessing that there's people in the audience that have got a multiple selection of Autodesk products and probably some of our competitive products and probably a whole bunch of ERP, MRP kind of systems as well, right? Because you're not maybe 100% design and manufacturing, you might be a bit of AECO, you might be a bit of everything. And so we see a lot of our customers have built up a collection of our products over time, right? And inside each of those products, they've got inherent embedded intellectual property. It could be in the form of physical geometry, which is highly dimensioned and toleranced. It could be in the form of automated workflows. It could be in the form of raw data. And what they want to do is they want to move away from choosing which software product I need to use to solve a problem to solving the problem. What they want to do is connect all of that intellectual property that's embedded in these kind of desktop-based tools in a way that they can spread the data to anyone they need to in the business, in any format, in any context. And that's really where the benefit of a platform is. Our mission is to connect all of our products to our platforms, okay? The design and make one is called Fusion, the AECO one is Forma, and the media and entertainment one is all called Flow. All of them are built on something called platform-based services. All of them have this idea of a data model at their core. And just imagine the power of connecting all of your products to that data core. What it will allow you to do is not PDM or PLM. The challenge isn't like geometry or process management. It's granularity, connection, and context. So here's a very crudely modeled, crappy mechanical component on the screen. If you think about it, think about all the data points, all the metadata that is associated with that product or could be, okay? You might have the concept requirements. You will have the parametric geometric relationships. You might have some embedded manufacturing information. You might have supply chain data, warranty specs. You might have revision histories. All of that information, most of it is non-geometric, non-CAD, but it's a data. is contained within this model. Now imagine having to share all of this information with everyone who wanted to have access to it. It would be too much. But instead, imagine being able to take the right parts of information and share them with the right people in the right context. And that's the benefit of a platform. It allows you to extend the value of your data beyond like a single product to anyone in the business that needs it. And so what are some of the things that people are doing with this kind of a platform approach? Well, they're accelerating their time to market, just like Kawasaki Heavy Industries, who are reducing their engineering time from around 30 to 40%. Imagine the cost savings that will have. They're using it to increase their manufacturing quality and throughput, just like Contura prototyping, who are able to meet a customer, and then get back to them in a matter of weeks with a finished product instead of months. Think about the time and cost saving, but also think about the customer experience in this case. That's a great use of some of those superpowers. They're also using it to increase their operational efficiency, a bit like Stellantis, who have created an entire factory model, which is like a digital twin of their factory. And they can use it to evaluate how to shut down and do tooling changeovers, with the net result of a reduction in changeover time. And anyone that operates a factory will know that that is the single biggest asset that you probably own. And even a 10% reduction in changeover time would be significant. Stellantis were able to kind of triple that and get to a 33% reduction in changeover time through the approaches that we're talking about. But there is another one that's, I would say, kind of unexpected, but very welcome. And that is the transformation of the business value proposition. And we're seeing a very recent case, MSC Industrial Supply, one of the largest manufacturers of distributors in the US. They use some of our technology. They use our Fusion platform. And what they're noticing is it's giving them the ability to add even greater value to their customers. And so they've estimated that value that they've been able to give back to their customers is almost $1.8 million in cost savings. Now, of course, that's a definite value add. You could say, yeah, I could do that with engineering tools anyway, but they're actually using this as a selling proposition to be able to market themselves as, look, we are a forward-thinking company, and if you just work with us, yeah, we can supply you products and equipment, but we can also save you significant costs because of the smart way that we're using technology. It's a really interesting concept that we're seeing more and more and more of, using that like a technology is almost like a sales platform. And so I've talked a little bit about, the superpowers. There's a Q&A coming up, so if there's any more questions about those later. But what I really want to spend the rest of the time talking about would be AI. It's impossible to have a conversation with anyone in the world today without this term coming up. And a lot of the questions that we get asked are, okay, is this real or is this hype? And I think it really depends on your attitude towards technology. Some people's attitudes is AI is a good thing, a bit like Jarvis in Iron Man. It's kind of like benevolent, all-knowing, caring intelligence that's there to make your life better. And that's certainly the kind of view that we subscribe to. Or there's the other view for any science fiction fans, HAL 9000 from 2001, the technology is out to get you, okay? Now, people fall on either side of this equation, but I think that the reality is much more probably to the left. This is a tool. It's a tool that could be used to help us achieve even greater things if we have the right approach to it. So when companies ask us, okay, I get the superpowers, I get my transformation, but now this thing called AI is coming and really dominating the game, where do I start? And it might be a boring answer, but you can't start with just throwing AI into the equation. You have to start with something more fundamental, and that's data. This comes from the World Economic Forum's Path to Manufacturing Excellence through Data report. It shows us the importance of data. Data is everywhere. There's nothing we can do inside our business and even our lives these days that doesn't involve data. Our research tells us that 80% of data created in a manufacturing environment, once it's created, it's never used again. And if data is that important, how come we're not reusing it? Maybe it means that our approach to managing data isn't right. What people want is they want to go from silos to synergies. The promise of shared insights, shared values, single source of truth has been around for a long time. But I think that what we're seeing is that the approaches, the really heavy-handed PDM, PLM, MRP, ERP approaches, long drawn-out consulting engagements, six-figure, kind of budgets, just don't work anymore. People want fast, much faster, quick ROIs on their kind of their data journeys. And what they want to do is they want to move from siloed operations on the left, which take the highest level of maintenance, and it's a drain on your resource because of all that chaos that we talked about. And they want to ultimately move to scaling the value and insights contained in their data. But you can't just jump there overnight. You have to start by first connecting your data silos, starting to create context of sharing the right information in the right context with the right people. Start to get good at taking insights and extracting value add from that, automating the workflows and systems that are getting in the way, so that you can then get to that scaled value and insights. And that's the other benefit of our platform. And that's kind of where the fundamental need for AI comes in, is because AI is good and it's great, it's very powerful, but you have to feed it something. And if you feed AI unstructured data, you're going to get not great results back. So a lot of people are asking us, hey, what are you doing about AI Autodesk? And this is kind of like our message, is that we see AI as a tool. It's a tool not to replace humans. It's a tool to augment the intellectual capability, capacity, and the creativity of humans. We want AI to be a tool to help us all design even better products to solve even more complex problems in the world. And there are kind of three levels of AI, if you like. There's task automation. I'll talk about this in more detail. There is workflow automation. If you take a bunch of tasks and you put them together in a logical sequence, then you have a workflow. So that could be something that AI could automate. And finally, there's what we call systems automation and modeling, which is how AI can sort of connect different systems you have inside your business and help you draw insights that we maybe even not be aware of. And this is our journey on AI. So let's start with task automation. So think about any of your engineers in your departments. Think about the things they do day in, day out. Is it really high value add, or are they just kind of doing the lower value add things, which are highly repetitive? Could they be doing something far more creative, far more value add based, like finishing sketches, creating drawings? Why do we need to create drawings anymore? Why not let a tool do it to me? Create design review concepts. I've got this new product. I want to show it to the board. Create me this deck, which will position the product, render it, give me the key facts about it. I can take that into the meeting. Release a product. Find the related parts. Find me the fill lines in my drawings. All of these things are kind of like tasks that currently our engineering teams have to do. Okay? It's maybe one of those red lines that I showed in the kind of in the chaos slide earlier. Why not use AI to automate those tasks and allow our engineers to focus much more on the innovation and creativity and value add aspect of it? So that's what I mean by task automation. And much of this is available today inside the Autodesk Assistant, which is appearing in kind of all of our technologies. Then we get to the even more interesting thing, like workflows. So you take a bunch of tasks and you put them in a logical order and it becomes a workflow. What about creating a concept for something? Why do you need to even draw a sketch? Why not just say, got this idea for an air fryer or a set of headphones or whatever, a new car? Sketch me a concept and just prompt the tool to come up with the first series of concepts. It doesn't replace the ingenuity and the creativity of human, but it means that you don't have to start from a blank sheet of paper. So think about that as a compression of workflows, a prompt to design. Think about the way we manage data. I talked earlier about that. I think that there's something wrong with the way that PDM, PLM systems work. They're too linear. They're too focused on just taking a file or a process and automating that. They need to be far more intelligent. And this is what you'll see in some of the AI workflows that we're launching with our PDM, PLM systems. Agentic based, able to process workflows and batches, able to kind of make independent decisions around things that might take you a lot of time and effort to do, where your time and effort could be better spent on something far more value-based. And then, of course, the manufacturing operations. How do you kind of like look at a line of sight across your production environment? How do you optimize your production on a continuous improvement basis? These are some of the workflow automations that our customers are asking us for, and we're delivering to them through things like Autodesk Assistant and embedded AI technologies in our tools. And then the last thing this is a vision of where we want to go. This is not real, okay? So just wanted to call out in the safe harbor statement. Is systems modeling. Now, imagine you've got a bunch of different systems in your business. You might have like a Microsoft system. You might have some Amazon stuff. You might have some Autodesk technology, competitive technology, SAP, Oracle, you name it, right? You'll have a bunch of technologies inside your business. These are all individual systems, and they interact in certain ways. And what systems modeling is about is allowing you to connect those systems and have AI shift from a, if this happens, then do that, which is really just automation, okay, to observe how these systems are operating, decide if there's a better way for them to operate, given a set of goals and parameters I specify, then act. Systems modeling improvement is really the holy grail for AI in terms of our manufacturing customers. That is the journey that we're certainly on. As I'm going to say, this is a North Star for us. It's not real right now, but it's definitely the journey we're going to. So to summarize, transformation is a journey. The journey's just got much steeper because of all of the disruptions that are happening in the world. But we do have a bit of a secret weapon with us. We have digital tools and technologies that could help us, but we need to understand where we are, where we want to be, and what's stopping us getting there. So don't start with technology. That would be my very first piece of advice for you. Find those innovators and early adopters inside your business. Empower them to have the where are we today, where do we want to be, and what's stopping us getting their conversation. Once you've had that, then lean into these digital superpowers that I talked about. And once you've done that, then find a strategic partner which has a platform mindset that can help you connect all of your products and all of the data inside them to create the data model that would allow you to share the right information at the right time, with the right people, and the right context, but enhanced with AI. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, this is the sort of stuff we do. Myself and my team, we get involved in this quite directly with organizations through our partners like NTI. If you want to have a conversation at a leadership level around digital strategy, we can offer you a digital strategy briefing. That's where somebody from the strategy team like myself will come up with NTI and we'll sit with your leadership team and we'll have a conversation very similar to the one we've had today. It's a digital strategy briefing. If that works, and it normally does, we then get into a kind of very, very detailed engagement, is what we call the transformation workshop. We've been running some of these workshops in other parts of Europe with the team at NTI. We're now going to be talking about how we kind of replicate these workshops in the kind of like the Nordic regions. But this is where we take those superpowers and we go into them in a lot of detail. We uncover what they are, how to do them, and share examples of how other companies have activated those superpowers. And it's used as a basis of prioritizing which of those 5 superpowers is right for you, and then putting together that roadmap to help you activate it inside the organization. So that's the digital transformation roadmap. So I hope that was of use and of value. I'd encourage you to kind of find me on LinkedIn and connect with me, keep this conversation going. But for now, I hope all that made sense, and I'll hand back to Daniel and the team at NTI.
So thank you very much for that inspiring session, Asif. I think it generates a lot of questions, but also some good ideas and insights, I think. Very inspiring. So we will have a short break. I will give you a little bit more than 10 minutes, and we'll be back at 10:50. Then Stefan and me will go a little bit into solutions, looking into different types of solution for different level of digitalization or different level of connected manufacturing. So please welcome back. While you're taking your break, think about the question, how are you using your digital power, superpowers, and what are they? I think that's a good start. So most welcome back in 10 minutes. Thank you. So welcome back. Hope you had a good break and had some thoughts about Asif's presentation. Gives you something to think about. I think it was really good. So we will continue with session number 2. It will be me and Stefan talking a little bit more into different solutions, focusing actually more on the data, I would say, and also look into different level of digitalization or automation. So going a little bit back to what we discussed in the start. We have different departments in our company that are used to use different kind of systems for handling their data. It could be a CRM on the sales side, engineering, CAD PDM, purchasing ERP, and so on. The problem is that the data is not often connected. So it's silos, and it's fragmented, and it's even not in sync many times, which means it could be one revision of an item in the PDM system, another in ERP system, and in worst case, also the supplier has a third version. So this is very time consuming and takes a lot of energy from the organization. Perhaps when you share data with the department that's next door, that works. But if you have an end-to-end process, this gets quite complex, as we saw as if picture before. I mean, if we have something that registers at the customer on site, perhaps that's a claim that needs to be handled by sales in somehow in the connection, then it's into engineering. Could be that we need to produce something and then back to service. So it's quite complex workflow. Which leads us this little bit of a chaos picture. I mean, you will still get an outcome. You do that today, but we discuss it's about being able to scale up and to speed up the business. I talk a lot with customers that are stuck in, they want to scale up their business, doing more efficient, but doesn't help to hire more people actually. Must look into how they take care of their workflows and data. So as a repetition, I mean, we have often quite complex systems. For example, the PDM system or ERP system or CRM system, but the data is in silos. It's manually updated. And it's also often that you have some kind of tribal knowledge. You have some senior people that been at the company for plus 15 years, and you need to go to them to ask because they know. And it's very vulnerable to have that situation. And you all have your processes mapped, but they are perhaps in some kind of management system. So you're not actually using them actively. You know how to do things, but as a human, if you can take a shortcut, you will do that. Which means this is very hard to get the control over the business and a good overview. So of course, this takes a lot of time. It's also high risk of errors, but also it prevents you to get up to speed and to scale up your business. This also means that we have a lot of opportunities. So if we think of some kind of goal, a vision, could look like this, that we actually can connect data, processes, and people. And then we actually release a lot of time to do more creative stuff. Get rid of the non-value time that we spend. And also be able to much easier speed up and onboard new people. So how do we do this then? let's look into some different levels of digitalization, or you can also call different level of connected manufacturing. So we will start off in the engineering department. I am a mechanical engineer as a background, so of course I think this is the core. And joking aside, it's actually here we create a lot of data that will be used downstream, but also could be used actually upstream on the sales side. So I will let my colleague Stefan present himself and dig into a little bit on different levels of digitalization and connected manufacturing. So please welcome Stefan.
Thank you, Daniel. My name is Stefan Bergsten. I have a role as a technical manager here at NTI Sweden. I've been part of the Autodesk community now for 26 years. Actually, the first customer that I went to where we started to implement Inventor was 26 years ago at Scandi Elevator, the customer that will present later on. So I'm super happy and excited to see that presentation. It's been an amazing journey. So as Daniel mentioned, we and also Autodesk, we started off, of course, being very focused on the engineering silo, so to speak, coming with CAD software, PDM software, and so on. So for us, that has been the natural connection point, of course. That's where we come from. And we've been helping the engineering department, answering questions like with problems with revisions, file management, a lot of manual tasks. We see that a lot. If you, for example, would like to create PDF files for your drawings and send them further down the business, we see that's very often done manually. And another kind of data that's supposed to be distributed. And that is, of course, time-consuming, high risk of errors, and could be difficult to scale. So we've been implementing Vault Professional and Vault Basic for many, many years. It's been around now for more than 20 years. And that has really helped the efficiency of the engineering department with features like searching, copy design, be able to release, and also have some kind of automation. We're helping by the job processors. So that's been something that we work with a lot the latest 20 years or so. So we helped a lot of your customers with that solution. And we also had developed our own software to further do this with the Evolver suite from NTI, especially within NTI for Inventor and NTI for Vault. So with the NTI for Inventor, to make sure that we create and prepare the CAD data in a proper way. That could be from filling out properties, making sure that you're using the right denominations and that kind of things has been super important. And that's a really important step actually to start there, to be able to send the data all the way through the organization to ERP systems and so on. And with NTI for Vault, to extend the capabilities of the job processor to be able to do almost everything that you can do with Inventor, AutoCAD, Vault, Navisworks, and so on. That also helped a lot and also saved a lot of time for customers to automate processes, avoid doing things manually, and also keep track on what is available and what has been done. So that has been a great journey. And this is something that we still do with a lot of customers. And a lot of customers are also now prepared to take the next step. But we're still focusing on the engineering department because that's our history. So we see a lot of things there. The next natural step is often to look into trying to connect to the next silo. So connecting the engineering silo to the purchasing side. And purchasing side, they almost always have some kind of ERP system. And without the connection, we still have the problem with data in silos, with the lack of synchronization, problems with knowing which revision is active, and a lot of manual entering. We've been working with ERP connections between Vault and other systems to ERP systems for many years, for more than 20 years actually. And we have this platform called NTI Integrator, where we can integrate with the most commonly used ERP systems here in Europe, with smaller ones, and also with the big ones like Microsoft, SAP, and so on. That means that we can take like the manufacturing bill of material from Vault together with all the attachments like PDFs, DXF files and stuff, and send it over to our ERP system. And it's very important to keep in mind which system owns which data. I mean, ERP systems are excellent on the things that you see on the right side, with keeping track of warehouse and stock, purchase orders, finance, suppliers, and so on. But we see a lot of customers spend a lot of time manually typing in all the information in the ERP system. And this is something that we now have been helping customers with, as I mentioned, for over 20 years. So this is a very big part. This is very often where we start this journey to have a digitalization. And I hope there are a lot of you customers in this meeting that already have this in place. So this is super important thing to start with. But we're still focusing on those two silos, helping engineering, opening the door to the next silo. But when we look at the entire workflow from a company focus, we still have other departments, other silos that we need to interact with. So if we look at it from a broader picture, we still, though, even if we have enhanced the workflows for engineering, we started the connections to ERP system, we still might have data in silos. Tribal knowledge is something that I see a lot, where if this person would leave the company, we would be in big problems, because this person is the only one who knows how things really should be prepared and how data should flow between the systems. So to be able to scale is super important, to get rid of this tribal knowledge and put it into more of a system or a platform base of knowledge. And a couple of samples of different workflows that really goes through the entire chain. So this slide says product lifecycle management. It could also be like a project lifecycle management. So for example, the handover from sales to engineering with things like IDs, it could be quotes, it could be specifications, it could be that you're trying to create a more comprehensive product portfolio. So you're not promising the customer to solve exactly everything, try to focus on maybe some standardization. So that's a very important thing. Another thing is, of course, like with new product development, or it could be if you're like an engineering to order company. So the entire project where we start the first interactions with the customers and then interact with all the different departments to be able to deliver something to the customer. That's something that normally is done a lot of with different documents, you know, this chaos picture, and sometimes with a lot of different systems. This creates a lot of challenges from a change management perspective, because if you need to change something, it's not just that you need to change a CAD model and the drawing. You also need to inform suppliers, talk with production. Will this change be available for production? Also, when it comes to the service side, to make sure that maybe you have the right spare part documentation, spare parts management, and so on. A key point for both PDM and PLM systems are the management of the bill of material, the BOM. So from CAD and the PDM side, we're very good at managing the engineering bill of material. But when we talk to customers, we often see a broader need of different kind of bill of materials. Maybe you need a bill of materials that really tells you which options do we have, what can we sell to the customer, and which options do we have for the individual components or assemblies. Maybe for production, we need a manufacturing bill of material because we have made the CAD model in one way in the structure, but we might need to restructure it for production. Maybe we would like to add more things to the bill of material, like packaging, like electrical bill of materials and stuff. And finally, when we come to the service part, we also need to manage both. We need to know what did we deliver to the customer. That's often called as an as-built boom. We need to keep track of that. So we know which versions of the products did they buy, what has changed during service. and also to be able to deliver the right kind of spare parts. And that's something that Per will talk about, and something that we now have implemented at the Elevator. It's also very often things connected to quality management, like non-conformances, product failures. It could be problems that you need to take into consideration before you do a change. And that also covers the other silos, the other departments apart from engineering. And especially when we talk about change management, I think that's the key one that we always talk with customers that they have problems with, because change, as I said, is not just about just changing a CAD model and the drawing. It's much more complicated. It's more things involved. So what we try to solve with what we call PLM is that we try to connect data, processes, and people. And I think that's three really good pillars to rely on, because that's what it's all about. It's about making sure that you have access to the right data at every entry point. It's super important that you have control over which processes do we need to follow, and where are we in the different processes, who's late, who do we need to remind, making sure that everyone involved in the process is aware of what they're supposed to do. And of course, connect people. And that's also to make sure that we don't rely on this tribal knowledge, so we have that inside the system. So how does that solution looks from an Autodesk and NTI perspective? Well, it's actually a combination of two different softwares. So we have Vault Professional, which is an on-premise tool, well-known, well-proven, been around for a very long time. And in a lot of cases, this is in place at your customers. And then we have a cloud-based solution called FoU-manage, built on the platform that Asif was talking about. Cloud-based PLM, which means that we don't have an infrastructure when it comes to servers, installations, updates, and so on. And also making sure that it is accessible from any device at any time, no matter where in your world you're located, as long as you have an internet connection. And FoU-manage comes out of the box with a couple of different capabilities, like you see on the top right side, that really covers a lot of things that we're trying to solve from the entire product or project development workflow. But it's not just only capabilities, it's also made upon suggestions out of the box, ready to use workspaces that you can either use directly out of the box, or you could massage them if you would like to add or remove things, or you can also make your own. And this is very important when we connect to other systems. So we talked about connecting to an ERP system, but we often see that there are other systems as well in play. It could be a PIM system, product information and management system. There are a lot of three-letter acronyms in this world. We also see that a lot of customers are looking into standardization with a CPQ tool, configure, price, quote, and that also connects to the customer experience that Asif is talking about. That's something that customers today are more or less expecting from us and our customers. ERP, of course, it could be a CRM tool, and it can also be APS. And APS is actually the Autodesk platform service. So that's the foundation that FoU-manage is built upon. And we will see an example of that when Per is doing his presentation, where we use that to be able to create a spare part portal for their customers, their end customers. So PLM is a great tool to connect and start to prepare for the AI introduction, and to be able to use that to connect to multiple different systems. And sometimes we can replace some systems that are already in play, and sometimes we need to connect to them. There could also be other systems that you need to connect to, apart from Vault and Inventor and AutoCAD and Autodesk software. It could be that you have CAD software from another vendor, for example, like SolidWorks or ProEngineer or something like that. It could be that you need to involve software development and those kind of tools that they use. It could be for electronic things. It could be for electrical and schematic drawing and modeling, like E-plan and other systems like that. So with Fusion Manage and that open API that resists within that platform, we are really able to connect everything to make sure that we have this entire digital thread. And what about the process? How does the processes look like? So we've seen that we can connect a lot of different systems. We have a lot of really strong capabilities, and I will come back to that in a minute. So what about workflows? Well, within Fusion Manage, we really have prepared workflows so we can follow the entire process of something. And this is a really good example that I often use connected to change management, because change management often starts with that you have some kind of problem or maybe an idea of an improvement. That needs to lead into a process where we prepare for a change. Normally, that's called a change request. So you have a problem report that you take care of. You know who's responsible to take the next step when you receive a problem report. You will then lead that into a workflow when you can initiate a change request. And when you have a change request, of course, engineering is most likely involved. But it could also be like you need to involve purchasing. You need to know how much do we have in stock, for example. Maybe you need to have approvals from production to make sure that is this a good change to make at this point of time? So you can really evaluate, is this change necessary now? Is it critical, or should we wait, or should we do it right now? And of course, the change request normally leads into that we really need to do something, and that is a change order. So within our PLM system, we really have excellent functions to be able to manage the change orders. So of course, we have changing tasks. That's when engineering starts to change 3D models, 2D drawings, and other kind of documentation. But maybe we need to have approvals from purchasing. We might need external approvals. Oh, sorry, I hit the wrong button. Maybe we need to have external approvers. It could be that we need to update our quality inspection and also make sure that this is available for spare part requests and so on. So changes are often more complicated, as I now said a couple of times, than just changing a 3D model and a drawing. So very often different departments, different approvers, and a lot of things to take into consideration when you are performing a change. And what value would that bring? Well, with Vault PLM, so Vault PLM is the name of Vault and Fusion Manage together. We can see that we have a lot of things that we can gain on the right side. And this is something that is top of the mind with a lot of customers that we talk to. They would like to increase expand their product offerings. They would like to improve the win rate, reduce defects, and so on. And with the different areas and capabilities that comes with Fusion Manage, we can see that we really covers a lot of them. And we will come back to that a bit later with some questions, but here it's super important to understand where should we start. So we work a lot, not just presenting technology, we work a lot with people trying to understand where are your biggest pain points, what are your goals and missions, where do you want to be, and where do we have the low-hanging fruits, and where do we have the highest return of investment, where should we start? So when we talk to engineers, they often see like change management is super important. But when we talk to engineers together with, for example, sales department, we see that the management of product portfolio, the project management, for example, could be a good way to start. So this is very exciting, where we combine talking about technology and possibilities but also combined with talking to people and really try to understand the business and where is your low-hanging fruits and where could you gain the most value. And as Sif mentioned, of course, when we talk about this, a lot of people ask us about AI. So could we also use AI for this? And I think Asif gave an excellent explanation. Where is Autodesk from an AI perspective? And we see them really focusing on AI and also providing a lot of capabilities. And this is, of course, both super exciting and interesting, but also a bit scaring. What about security? How do I make sure that the AI doesn't take my knowledge and send it all over the world? So I think this is really interesting to follow now in the future. What we see directly inside the software is that Autodesk Assistant is brought into a lot of engineering tools, especially now with the release of Inventor and Vault 2027. So I don't need a safe harbor statement for this one because this is already in play. And the AI assistant really helps us with the things that Asif mentioned, like with task automation and also in some cases with workflows. So it's not just a fancy tool that gives us a lot of help. It's also an assistant that really can perform automation tasks. So if you haven't looked into that yet, please do so. So that was from my side, Daniel. Do you have anything that you would like to add or mention?
Thank you, Stefan. Super good. Yes, we have some time left, so I thought about one question that was a little bit hard for me to understand looking back. You mentioned the connection between Vault and ERP. That's all good.
Yeah.
But then you say you can add on the backbone as a Fusion Manager. Where does it fit in? Because if we now done the journey connecting Vault and ERP, how do you then connect with Fusion Manager? Or will it be another type of connection? Just from my understanding here.
Well, it's more or less the same type of connection between Vault and ERP and Fusion Manager and ERP. But with Fusion Manager, you have the possibility also to add other things. Maybe, as I mentioned, combine a bill of material with both data from Vault, from another CAD system, with electrical things, with software and things like that you normally don't keep track on inside Vault. So that's one thing. The other thing is that you also have more control over the requirements of the products, and also to know and also prepare for change, to know that this is the things that we really need to take into consideration when we are performing a change, and especially with the aftermarket side that Per will talk about, because that's something that we normally don't keep track of inside Vault. Which parts are spare parts? Do we have any spare part kits that we need to deliver? So I think we get a much more better preparation for sending data to our ERP system with Fusion Manager, because it covers a lot of more things.
Correct. So in that case, it would be actually that Vault is connected to Fusion Manager.
Yeah.
You prepare the data, and then Fusion Manager, when it's change managed release, then you send the data to ERP.
Exactly.
Oh, good. Then I understand. Super. Yeah. Thank you.
And also, before you send the ERP, you need to have a lot of more departments approve that transfer to ERP. It could be like we mentioned with production, and also maybe with the spare part and quality department.
So I have some customers using the engineering change order process within Vault. Will they be replaced, or what do you see there, Stefan?
Yeah, so if you have that in place, you can have that in combination, because the change order features within Vault is excellent to perform the change, but everything before, when you prepare for the change, and also maybe when you have an approval process of the change, you very often need to involve other people and other departments, and that is much more better suited within the Fusion Manager.
Good to hear.
The answer is that and that is often the story, because people are wondering, okay, we have invested a lot of money inside Vault, so will that now be gone if you move into PLM? Well, the answer is actually no, you don't need to remove Vault. Please keep Vault and use Vault for what it's supposed to do and what it's best at. But then you can add on Future Manage and especially to involve the entire company in the process.
Thank you. Much more clear for me.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I think we will wrap up session 2. Just let me go back to the picture here. And we have a short break again. Sorry. Here we are. So we'll be back at 11:30. So again, 10 minutes break. And while you're taking your break, think about how you're actually using your engineering data, because in the engineering department, a lot of data is created. How do you utilize that data, both downstream and upstreams? And I would think Per would talk much more about this actually. So most welcome back in about 10 minutes. Thank you. Welcome back. I hope you had a good break thinking about engineering data and how to utilize that in your organization. Now, the session I've been waiting for, a real life reference, Scandelevator. Per Nilsson will talk about how they have, with the help of digitalization, created an aftermarket portal, serving their customers in a much better way. So it's quite a win-win, both for Scandelevator and for their customers. So please welcome Per.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. Well, I will take you through what we have been doing for the last year or so, and a little bit what we have in mind for the future. I'll start off with giving you a brief view of who we are and what we do. We are actually a company that was founded back in 2014. It started off as a small local company that I almost had produced, but basically crafted threshing machines and manure spreaders, and did well for itself for many years. And then in the 60s, the second generation of owners took over, and this is the point where the company kind of turned into the type of company it is today, starting doing the type of products we are producing up until today. And in the beginning of the 2000s, Jonas and Joachim, the third generation, is now the owners of the company and actively participating in both production parts and marketing parts. They turned the company into a real industrial factory and organization that is modern and producing all the different types of products we're doing today. The core business is actually punching and forming. That is what we do, so to say, as the foundation. And then, of course, comes the assembly and also the packaging, as we are doing quite large machines. Packaging is quite important. And as Stefan mentioned, we started CAD design early, I would say, for being an industrial company of our type. So back in the beginning of 2000, we actually started working with CAD-based designs. The products, the site that we are working in is all in one site. We are still in the same area, same location as we always been since 1914. We have all the operations on site, all the other departments as R&D and quality and purchase and marketing and sales. We have invested heavily in our production facility. Being a production facility of this type in Sweden, you need to have a fairly automated process to be able to do this. And the plant has gradually grown. Starting back at the house, the oldest part of our building is back in 33. And then it's continuing and adding on a quite significant part here the last year to be able to grow into the company we are foreseeing ourselves to be in the future. The products we are doing, we are mainly producing conveying equipment for grain storage facilities. We do not do silos. We do the machines that transport the grain to and from silos and dryers. We have the last years started up a second business area, which is Grain Cloud. It forms a smaller part right now, but the main part is still elevators and many different types of chain conveyors, and then of course accessories as inlets and outlets and dust removers and all these kind of adjacent products come along with this type of machines. We export about 85% of our production is exported, although we still have quite a significant market share in Sweden in small and medium farming equipment at about 80-90%. So even though exporting a lot, we still have our main market in Sweden. Grain Cloud then, as this is a bit of a digital inspired event, Grain Cloud started out as an idea back in 2016 on how can we, so to say, address and how can we expand into a digital area, as we are mainly a mechanical, very much a mechanical business. So it started out as an idea, was struggling a couple of years how to get into this, finding its place, trying to find data within the system which we did not have control over. So our customer is actually taking our machines and integrating them into their facility using their software to control our machines. So by extracting data, we started to find a business where we can provide the end customer with valuable information which they could use. And this has now grown into basically a business area. It's growing quite fast, and the products we are having products which is weighing the grain in the flow. So in the elevator, we can weigh how much grain it is transporting. We have Grain Watch, which is basically monitoring the grain storage in terms of temperature and CO2 and how the grain is having it. And then the latest addition is basically a different types of control systems. We have smaller control systems for dryers or for silo drying equipment, but then last year we took quite a big step and created a control system for the entire facility, something that many of our customers today do themselves. But we were now, as we had worked on these ideas, and since 2016, we were now in a place where we could provide a better and more value-added system to our customers. So that makes a big difference for us to be able to take this step, going from a solely mechanical company into a company where we actually can combine these two areas and create great value for our customers. Other customer values that is very important to us, it is short delivery time, and that is basically based on our modular systems. All our products, it's like Lego bricks. We have a bunch of different modules which we put together to form a machine, because no machine at site are the other one the same. They are all different, and they all need to be different heights. They need to have different inlets and outlets in different places. So having a modular system makes that very good for the customer, but I will come back to the downside of it. We also have a quote configurator, basically a system where the customer can build their own machine and get the price and get an offer, and then by a push of a button, turn that into an order, which is going directly into our ERP system. So that is a very, very good and liked system for our customers. And going in a little bit to the after sales part, we have a generous after sales policy. We help our customers. We believe that our customers have bought our product. We know that it is good. If there is for some reason some difficulties with it, we will of course help them. We can help them because we have a very good historic data of all the orders going into our system. So we have, if you placed an order and bought a machine by Scandi Elevator, we know which machines, which modules, which components it contains of. So therefore, that data is so to say the foundation and the start of how we manage our spare parts. A spare part has been a hustle for us. The spare part management has gone on since basically the 70s by a fairly normal way. We have a hand-drawn exploded views. We have booms in different languages, and all is managed solely by itself. It is not connected in any way. It is a standalone PDF, which then we all know when you end up with a lot of machines, it is extremely hard to update these ones. So many of these, I would stretch and say that basically 90% of these is in some terms obsolete. It is very hard to keep track of them. This makes, of course, spare part management extremely difficult. It makes it dependent on a specific person who has the knowledge about a machine which was sold 10 years ago. Very time consuming to get hold of that person and to extract this information. So we for a couple of years, we have seen that this is not working in the long run, especially not now when new equipment and new machines is more rapidly being updated, or new versions is being produced. So we had our basically the boom of the order in our EP system. So when setting out to see how should we design a spare part system, we sat down and said that we need, today you need to be visual. You cannot have, even back in the 70s, you had the exploded views. So spare part management, I believe, needs to be visual in some way. The customer doesn't really know what he wants. He wants something like this, and it sits roughly there. They need to see something. So a visual system. And of course, easily maintained. We do not want to end up in the same situation in 10 years, having a system which we didn't manage to maintain to the extent we needed. And connected to our EP was a foundation. We needed to have that. And also, as I talked about, the order number is the core of our communications with our customers is based on the order number. So with those parameters, we set out and started looking at what type of systems are there. So we engaged four different companies. We did this thoroughly. So we made pilots with actual data. We took a bunch of data, we put it into their systems. They designed the system so it worked with our data. They came to us and they showed us. And many of these systems were very nice. They did basically what we wanted. It had a nice visual design. Some of them had a very good connection to our ERP systems. Some lacked it in some form. But when NTI came and presented their solution, it became quite clear, because it was visually what we needed. But most importantly, it was based on our actual CAD data, on our assemblies which we make. And that, of course, makes the maintenance part extremely difficult. And on top of that, they had a very nice, and Stefan talked about it as well, they have a very nice integrator to the ERP system, the NTI integrator. that helps a lot. And that also made it possible to have a very nice link to our quote configurator, the system where you basically start off, if you want to buy a machine, you start off in the quote configuration. With this setup now we have, or soon going to have, you also start, if you want to buy a spare part, you also start off in the quote configurator. And you, as you have done the ordering of your specific spare part, you end up back in the quote configurator. So it kind of kept this together. So you have one point of entry for the customer, which makes this this very user-friendly for the customer. So having seen this system, having seen what it does, we thought it now is just to implement it. And implementation, as we know, could be a hassle. But the first thing we concluded, and this was very important for especially me and the R&D department, is that Fusion Manage is the basis for the spare part. If we had for many years tried and continuously discussing if we could integrate or get a PLM system to manage our data, not only for R&D, but also for the other departments. The discussions at that time was mainly based upon the R&D data, but now when the spare part portal came and gave the final push, it was very nice to see that now we can finally get Fusion Manage and we can get a PLM system to help us manage the data we have. And the second conclusion is that this is going to be a massive amount of work. I talked about modules. We sell about 1,000, 1,200 modules, and they contain somewhere up to 100 different components, each module. And that is what we have on sales today. But doing a spare part system, we also need to take care of all the older revisions. You need to provide that. So we can add additional 3,000 modules. And going back using CAD since the early 2000s, well, the view, the usage, the ways of working with CAD back in 2000 was not the same as it is today. So we have a big variety of the status of the different models. The last 5 years, you basically just put them in the system and they're good to go. Maybe check so that the technical boom and the production booms is accurate, but it's fairly good to go. And then we have the majority of our CAD models. They needed some work, and it's not the most rewarding work for an engineer to rework models, make sure that they have the right components, that the booms is correct in the ERP system and in the CAD. But it's a job that needs to be done. So leaving the last parts, because managing this amount of work, you need to plan and you need to prioritize. You need to realize that, well, we're not going to get 100% in. It's not going to be a click and collect for all our spare parts. You need to understand that, well, basically there is some which we need to have a person look at. But that is to manage the amount of work that is being put in. The system is going to take care of 80-90% of our spare parts. It's going to make a huge difference for us, but it's not worth doing all the small bits and pieces. So plan and prioritize was quite important to do, and to manage expectations both internally and externally about this. And then starting off this, you need to be resilient. You can't just stop. You cannot work halfway through it. So there needs to be resilience. There needs to be an eye on the goal, so to say. So with the amount of work and with a bit of resilience, we have now worked through, and as the diffuse graph shows, we are on track, and we are producing models and putting them into the system. And this is going so well that basically in next week we are going to implement this system, releasing it to customers. We have done some small pilots with 2 customers. next week we are releasing it to our customers. We'll see how that goes. And with this implemented, we have a system that meets our customers' long wanted needs. It is based on our CAD data, which is very important to be able to maintain this system. It is integrated with our ERP system, and also a very nice way from a customer perspective is that it is now also the entrance goes through, and you're ending up in quote configurator, which is very nice. For the R&D part, we finally get accurate data. If you work through your data, we all know that CAD models, dependent upon on how you link them to production, tends to live their own life. Now we have worked through this, and this will of course help us a lot when we do changes, if we need to do updates. So having a collection of accurate data is very important for us. And also parts where the ERP and the CAD data is accurate. And finally, the PLM system is implemented, our goal has now been to have the spare part portal. But as the PLM system is now implemented, we can now take the next steps, not just only the obvious PLMs sharing, gathering data, finally for the first time extracting all that data that the engineering department is producing and having them available to the rest of the organization, just as Stefan talked about. But there is a bunch of other benefits coming from working through your processes. Even if we haven't come to the point to implement our engineering change order process in the PLM system yet, I would say, we are going there, but it still affects this. So we still have to look at the process. We still have to look how we interact with purchase, how they get their information and so on. And doing so, I believe that all companies have different needs, but we all need to review our processes once in a while to see and to avoid all these errors that can happen and to minimize the waste. And I believe that has also been an sort of an unseen benefit from implementing this system. So even though we are extremely happy with our spare part portal, I am now even more looking forward to the first steps going into using this system in the future. And I believe that it will make a big difference for us. The ease of access will increase dramatically. So I hope you got a quick view of what we have been doing, and I hope I don't scare you off with all the work. That's of course different from different companies, but still, if you do it, there is very good benefits to draw from it. So, thank you.
Super. Thank you very much, Per. Some really good insights. And as you mentioned, I mean, to achieve something, you need to put some effort into it, right? So otherwise things won't happen. So I think thank you. So I think we should move to the Q&A session, please, Anne-Mette. So we can have all panels visual. Super, thank you. One question for you, Per, where I think you mentioned it, but if you can, again, the two most important lessons learned, just emphasize them a little bit.
The two most important lessons learned
from this kind of project. I think
well, the work part is one thing. So that's it is a lot of work, but starting up this, it is quite hard because we came from knowing very little about the PLM system. So starting off, getting all the information, trying to understand what this can do for us, I think a big lessons learned is that the more you realize what it can do, the more you realize that these bits and pieces, they actually fit into what we do. We can actually use and we can benefit from this. So I would say that that's the biggest takeaway, because I didn't know you could do all that with a PLM system. So that's a very nice experience to have that. And of course, you need to make sure that you can utilize it or draw benefits from it in what you do and in your business. But I think that is a very important lesson.
Super good to hear, because I think a lot of customers are actually struggling with seeing the outcome, the business value. How much time should we spend on this? I mean, to get there, as you say, you need to have your focus on the goal, because it will be a bumpy road. And you mentioned it also, Per, but I will send this question to Asif. I mean, you meet a lot of customers, and I guess when I talk with them, there's a lot of customers wondering how should we get our data in order? How do we free up time to just create that data order? What do the companies do that actually succeed with that? I think you were a little bit touching on that, Per, but to you, Asif, what?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I've seen some companies when they approach data. I think one of the biggest stumbling blocks is trying to do everything. So there's a company that's fairly close to where I live. I went to meet them, not that long ago, and they told me that they had a plan to, connect all their data and structure it. So they began collecting every single piece of data that the design office generated, the factory generated, and they ended up with terabytes of data. But when I asked what you do with it, they said, "Well, we don't know." Right. So to me, that's a kind of an indication of the lack of the why. So I think with everything, the transformation is 100% the same thing. Is we need to have a clear idea of what the why is. So if you have a data-related issue or a problem, let's say defect rate on products is too high, or let's say there's another trend that you've emerged. Start with that problem and then look at the data that sort of sits around that problem and just connect that piece of data or those bits of data, as opposed to starting the whole thing. So I think it's almost like just basic engineering principles is what problem are we trying to solve? Because digital is only a tool to solve these problems. So if you had a nut or a bolt or a washer or two bits of metal that need to be connected, we know as engineers what sort of torque wrench to use, what sort of torque to apply, what sort of welding process to use, what machining process to use. Same principle, but just using digital tools. So I would say, don't over-engineer. Start with the why. Start small. Identify the data points that help you, measure success or how bad things are. Connect those bits of data and see what insights come from that. That's usually a strategy to get out of the kind of this heavy engineering approach to let's do everything everywhere all at once.
Yeah, I guess so, because we're a bunch of engineers, so it's easily to get stuck in that one, and thing doesn't happen at all, because you see this Mount Everest of data that you need to clean to get anywhere. So a question for you, Stefan. You've been working a lot with different solutions out there. What you would say is the most common, I would say, low-hanging fruit? Where to start? You mentioned parts of it in your presentation.
Yeah, and I could make a lessons learned out of the Scandi elevator example, because I was part of doing the training for the first engineers. Fun fact is that the new engineers, one of them is son to the one that started the 3D CAD journey, and he was not a bad modeler at all. Very impressive, learning Inventor for the first time, no CAD experience, actually no Windows experience, so he did a great job. But at that period, we didn't know that the end goal was to send everything to ERP, send everything to a spare part system. And that's often where we start, especially when you do discussions around ERP integrations and stuff. How prepared is your 3D CAD data? It could be, is the structure correct? Is the nomenclature correct? Do we use the same titles, the same part numbers? And that is actually quite the low-hanging fruit to start there? Are we preparing for the next step? And also, as Asif mentioned, to really understand where are we going? So understand where are we going and where are we today? And some of the low-hanging fruits is actually really make sure that you prepare your data.
Super, thank you very much. So yes, some key takeaways from this event. Referring to you as if gather your eternal superpowers. I mean, you know what people that actually will get things done. Gather them. What do we actually achieve? What do we have for long-term goal? A strategic alignment. Looking into the bottlenecks. Looking into where do we have easy wins. Engage with partners. Engage with us at Autodesk and NTI. We are very happy to come to you for doing such a workshops, discoveries together, because this is all about getting a win-win situation. And create some kind of plan, roadmap. And after we set some kind of proof of concept, something to try it out with, as Per mentioned. Could be a little bit abstract in the beginning, but if you do some kind of proof of concept, it's much easier to gain understanding within the whole company. What are we actually aiming for here? And after that, of course, we had the product execution. I think you mentioned, Per, setting the right expectations on the project, because as I say, solution is one thing, but then you will actually then wonder about your processes, challenge your processes, and you will also understand a lot more about the data. So it's not only setting up a new solution, it's very much about mature data, mature processes to get a better outcome. I think it's very interesting. And of course, you will tend to go to the next step after that, I hope so. So see, time is running, but thank you very much for joining this. Thank you, Asif. Thank you, Per. Thank you, Stefan. And thank you all participants. And we're just a click away. If you want anything from us, support, we're very happy to come out to you and to continue this discussion. So have a great day. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Bye.